Hey Girl Scouts, we are back with another special guest interview. It's Kristina Lachaga, the girl with the big pink heart, and I am joined with our special guest, Gabi Robledo. She is an amazing coach, athlete, and entrepreneur, and I'm so excited because she's gonna literally help us climb with courage this cookie season. She's so inspiring, and I'm so excited to introduce you to her. So, hi Gabi, how are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Good. I am so excited to speak with you. Tell us where you are right now because you have a special story about all the different places you go.
Right now I am in northern Montana here snowboarding, but I have grown up traveling all over the world. So when I was 14 years old, my family decided to move into an RV so we could travel the world full time. And since then, we've been to 26 countries and 13 different states, actually, probably more than that now. But I was raised with a super unconventional lifestyle, being schooled on the road, becoming an entrepreneur at a young age, but just traveling the world in search of rocks to climb and waves to surf and trails to hike and mountain bike and places to ski. And so my life has been a big old adventure since the time we moved into an RV.
Oh my gosh, you that is incredible. You literally live such an adventurous lifestyle. I am so honestly like so excited to meet you. I'm like, wow, I'll have to see like where your journey takes you on Instagram. I follow you, so I'm like, oh, this is so cool. So you climb, you surf, you mountain bike, and you live in an RV with your entire family. So how do you all get along and how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, a big part of it is you really get so close to each other, like close to each other literally, but emotionally you get to know what people's strengths and weaknesses are. You learn to respect each other for what each person needs in their life and in their space. Some people want to go on the biggest adventures when we go hike and mountain bike and all that, and some people would rather just stay home. And we all just get used to respecting each other for our differences, but also boosting each other up for our strengths because all of us have something very unique to bring to our family. And that is something that makes our connection as a family really close, but also it makes us more collaborative in the way we live in a small, tiny space.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a perfect yes. Girl Scouts are gonna be working together, working and embracing teamwork. So that's great advice for girls. So learning to embrace the differences and boost each other up with what makes you amazing. I love it. That's so
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so it seems like you really live your life off script. I love it. So has your life always been like that? And like, how did you find the courage to blaze your own path? Especially in a society where there's a lot of very like a lot of expectations that are set especially for girls about like what we should and shouldn't do. So how do you find the courage to do all that?
Yeah, I definitely didn't always live this unconventional life because I grew up in a very classical suburban life for a very long time. And I was always an avid athlete, but I was always driven by the external pressure of competition. So I grew up a gymnast and a soccer player before I was all of that. And I was super competitive in those sports, but I was always driven by what is the external expectation of me. And so I was always driven by achievement because you get the award, you get the medal, and then you get validation for doing well. Well, when we moved into an RV, it really became all about learning to question things. So even though I wasn't always living in an RV, I was always brought up to question things. And so moving into an RV provided this kind of silent space, this place for mindfulness to just naturally happen. And I started to start to notice how, oh, I was in that mode because when we moved into an RV, I quit those sports and it was like this, wow, that wasn't making me happy. So I realized that the extrinsic pressure, all those external expectations weren't making me happy. And that was mind blowing for me because then I started saying, well, what does make me happy? And so what I realized over 7 years now is that what really makes us happy is when we have an intrinsic value system. So an intrinsic value system, to put it simply, is anything that we can bring out into the world with our own free will to make us happy. So for example, if I was living my life from the external expectation of achievement or accomplishment, well, instead I'm never going to have full control over how well I can do compared to other people, but I can tell myself that I have the value, that I want to do the best I can. I want to live in my full potential and I want to bring as much strength and grace as I can to this moment. So choosing words bringing your values back inside you of things that I really want to be a courageous person. And as long as I'm a courageous person, then you stop looking outside to what your expectations are of you. I think that's really important for kids these days, especially for girls, because we are so used to, I have to make this person happy. And it's great, especially, your close family and your loved ones, you want to make them happy and but you also have to make sure you're doing it from the right space. If you want to be a kind person, that is a great value, but you shouldn't be doing it just to make someone else happy. So this could really, I talk about this so much and it could go in detail, but it really, in the end, it comes down to what do you really want to be? Who do you really want to become? And coming from a place of what can I do, not what do other people want me to do.
I love it because I checked out your social media and I loved how you were talking about even with success, like bringing it into yourself and saying I already am successful, and then you come from such a more like grounded place. I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
So, in case your life wasn't already like adventurous enough, you founded 2 businesses at such a young age. So, what was it like starting those businesses? What inspired you?
Yeah, so I started my first business when I was 15 years old, and I was one of the trips. So we had been living in an RV for 2 years now, and we had bought one-way tickets. My whole family of 7 bought one-way tickets to Europe, and we rented an RV and we traveled in an RV that was even smaller than our first RV through Europe. And we were on that trip, and at that point, I had already finished all of my official homeschool. I just did all of my high school work in 1 year before, so that I could not have to do school when I was on the trip. And so that was just unschooling. And in that space of unschooling, and we were going on all these adventures, and I was experiencing all this mindfulness of daydreams, sort of. I was like, why don't we just start a travel blog? So my mom and I came together and said, we have all this travel experience. Maybe we should just start a travel blog. So I was inspired by my passion, and I had all this space in my life to create a new goal. And naturally, I was just drawn towards making I call it a greater expression of myself, because the passion is something I already had. Turning it into a business was just a natural next step. But really, the only reason I was capable of even making that step, or courageous enough to make that step, was because I came from a place of values before that. So I'd already learned my values, where I was saying, I want to act from a place of living in my fullest potential. And I want to come from a place of living authentically. Because in the process of living in an RV, one of the biggest struggles along the way is dealing with the social rejection from peers. Because for a long time, or when I was earlier in my teen years, it was like you living in an RV was the weird thing to do. And so there was definitely this battle, but it was a very important battle, because in the end, it taught me how to come from a place of values, where it's like, those people might think these things of me, but these people are actually supporting me in my dreams. And so then you start to believe in yourself, because in the end, when you are trying to start a business, you really have to just believe in yourself. So I guess any guidance that people can take from this is that nobody's going to believe in you as much as you want them to or need them to, but you can absolutely believe in yourself, and you should believe in yourself, because you have something amazing to offer. And so for me, that was looking at, I have this passion, so I might as well turn this into a purpose. And so over the years, I started that business. People totally thought I wasn't serious about it, that it was just a side hobby, but it turned into a business. And I recently started another business with my mom and my sister. This time we have a mindfulness business where we help people learn mindfulness in fun and simplified ways. And then I started my coaching business. So all of this came from that original place of wanting to be led by, well, what am I capable of if I fully believed in myself? And so here we are today.
Oh my gosh, Girl Scouts, we are definitely going to be fully believing in ourselves after listening to Gabi. She is so inspiring. And so, what advice would you give girls that are going into cookie season right now? They're going to be embracing really big goals for themselves. And what are some ways that you can help them achieve those? What would you tell them?
Right. So definitely comes down to believing yourself to start with. And that requires a lot of love for yourself. So start that process of not looking to the external world for, what does this person believe I can do? What do I believe I can do? Now, the second step of courage is really important. So I always tell people to take massive imperfect action. So massive imperfect action is just a fancy way of saying to be brave. So if you, I talk about if you were the hero of your story, what would you do? So the same thing applies here where if you were a hero that you were watching in a story, in a movie or a book, what would that person do? How would they act? What would they become? What man would they be confident, or would they be scared and timid? So if you're trying to embrace a big goal, there's going to be a point, or if you're trying to accomplish a big goal, there's going to be a point where you have to do something outside your comfort zone, and it's going to seem very scary. Whether that's whether that's something to do with people, whether that's something that you have to do brave, whatever it is, you have to challenge that comfort zone, and you have to say, I can do this. And a lot of times we are so afraid of messing up or failing or people judging us that don't want to take the action. But you take the massive imperfect action anyway, like the hero of your story.
Oh my gosh, Gabby's a Disney movie. Disney lady. Okay, so something tells me you weren't able to accomplish this all on your own, and you have a lot of family around you. So, what has been your approach to teamwork and achieving goals as a group? Girls are selling with USA Girl Scouts overseas. They are working with their overseas committees. So, how can we work together?
So like I started with us living in an RV, you pinpoint people's strengths and weaknesses. You respect their weaknesses, but boost each other up for your strengths. So one of the things working, starting businesses with my family members, like I have 2 businesses with my mom, and I have businesses with my sister, and I'm really close with all my family. Always worked like a team around the house and living in an RV. It really comes down to being all of you and not trying to be everything. It's silly for you to try to use a skill that you're not naturally good at if someone right next to you is so amazing at that skill. And it's not that you're not capable of that skill, it's that you should be all of you. You already have some gifts inside you that are going to be best used if you just allow yourself to be all of it. But don't try to be something you're not, because someone right next to you might already have that gift, and you guys can work together to support each other and be each other's yin and yang. Like, this person has this skill, I have this skill. If we come together, we can create some amazing things.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's perfect. And okay, so it sounds like you've really identified your soul's purpose or your personal brand. And our Girl Scouts are going to be using digital cookie to sell their cookies. So they're going to have their own profiles that they on the internet that they can send to their family and friends in the States so they can buy their cookies. So they're going to be incorporating their own personal branding and making it personalized for themselves. So how what advice would you give to girls to really embrace themselves and create that personal brand to show to their family and friends so they can tell everybody about their cookies this year?
So probably thinking about that hero of your story thing is really important. So if you look at yourself and think, well, if I were the hero of my story, what would I do and be? But more so, if you're going to try and take this and turn it into a personal brand or sell cookies, looking at what words you actually come up with when you look at yourself as a hero. So if you look at yourself as a hero, how would you describe yourself? Just pick 3 to 5 words, whatever it is, but how would you describe it if you were looking at that person from the outside world? You would want them to be, maybe strong, maybe daring, maybe graceful, whatever these words are. Try to think about what those words are, because those words are going to help you kind of come up with this theme of how you're trying to express yourself. Because when you're trying to express who you are on the internet, it's not an easy thing, because it's a 2-dimensional or it's a 3-dimensional internet. So you have to have guiding points, like words can help you express how you want to portray yourself as a theme. And the last thing would be tell your story. Your story is the most valuable thing you have to offer. And like any hero, you have this amazing story. So look what you've had to overcome to be who you are today, and express that with the world, because people want to see your authentic truth.
Gosh, girls, write all that down and write your 3 to 5 words down so you can start embracing the hero of your story. Okay, so we love that you live such an adventurous life. So, what has been your favorite adventure so far, and where is your next adventure taking you?
Man, there's been so many. I mean, it's so hard to pick a favorite. But I think, okay, so probably my favorites would be either driving to Alaska, surfing in West Bali, or climbing in Switzerland. When I was 16, my mom and I climbed a 1,000-foot rock face in Switzerland, and that was incredible. coming up, my next adventures, well, actually in an hour or two, I'm leaving on a snowboarding road trip through Idaho. And then the biggest adventure I have this year, planned for this year, is to climb the Grand Teton. It is a very famous peak in the Rocky Mountain Range in Wyoming, and I'm very excited to climb that mountain.
That is so cool. You know what? When you were going to Alaska, you should have let us know because my grandma, she was like 96 years old when she said that she wanted us to drive her to Alaska.
It's so amazing that.
Oh my gosh, Mom, we'll have to do that. We'll have to go take that. That's incredible. Okay, so where can all our amazing Girl Scouts that are living in 90 plus countries, probably some of the places you've been, where can they find you and follow you on social media and your website?
So my website is GabiRobledo.com. It's GABIROBLEDO, and it's on Instagram. You can find me at Gabi Robledo with a little underscore at the end, spelled the same way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gabi. And before you go, girls, you got to get out your worksheets because we have a very special letter reveal from Gabi herself. So Let's see what our letter is.
Okay. So this is just some of the gear, all of my clunky gear. This is just some of the gear that I use to climb mountains and go on adventures. So for example, these fancy things right here, we plug these into cracks in rock faces and they expand so that if we fall on our rope, it catches us. So sometimes we put these into a wall, and if we fall while we're climbing, this thing catches us and keeps us safe. We have all these fancy gear items to keep us safe while climbing, plus more, so that we can go on adventures. So the letter for you guys is the first letter of adventure.
Ooh, everyone get your worksheet out and write down that letter. Awesome. Thank you so much, Gabi. And before you go, Girl Scouts, I know we can't hear you, but we're all gonna yell "Climb with Courage" with Gabi because she is honestly the definition of courage and literally mountain climbing. So here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Climb with courage.
Climb with courage.
Yay! Everyone type it in the chat. Thank you, Gabi.